Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. And we're going to be talking about the Corona panic. We're going to be sharing some news and information with you. We try to stay on top of it. I think we are one of the few broadcasters that is almost nonstop Corona panic. And I'd like to ask you to do your fellow classmates a favor. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for your fellow classmates. And the favor I'd like you to consider doing for them is if you wouldn't mind calling in and letting us know what other broadcasters are saying about the Corona panic, as I call it. Are they still saying it's a hoax, a fraud, a deception? Is it designed to distract you? Is it, in their words, BS? What are they saying? And the reason I'm asking is because I don't know if they know what others are saying, because I do not listen to the radio. I don't. I do my own research. Okay, I really don't have much value assigned to what others are saying. I don't want to listen to it from me. I want to read it. I want to read it from sources that I believe I can trust. So my question for you is, what are others saying? And you can name their names. I don't want you to be disparaging in any way. I'd like you, if you decide that you want to call in and share with us what they are saying, I'd like you to paraphrase it. And I'd like you to be very brief about what the message that you got from them is. You don't have to name their names if you don't want to. You may if you want to, as long as it's factual and accurate. The reason I'm asking this is I believe, I can't prove this, but I have this feeling that there's a lot of bad information out there. So if you decide that you'd like to call in, if you're an instructor or if you're a student, please consider calling in and sharing with your fellow classmates and me what you have heard. And maybe if you believe it or not. The number to call in, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up, 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418. With us today, live in Australia, Guineith Isaacs. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you today?
I'm pretty frosted. I am.
Yeah. That does surprise me.
The reason I'm frosted, well, actually, there are many reasons. Because people have let me down. People at one time I thought I could trust, I cannot trust. People whom I thought, would be assets here when this happened at the farm or any location where we might be. And now I see so many people, not all, but many, as liabilities. Now, I do not include you in a liability column. I would consider you an asset. As a matter of fact, Guineith, I don't think you and I have disagreed on anything as long as we have known each other. And we've never met, but I believe you're the youngest of the instructors, and I believe that your head is on absolutely straight, proper, and it's connected. And you see things the same way that I do, but not everybody does. And that's okay. But if they don't see things pretty much the way I see them, they're not welcome to be in my company. And, you know, am I saying, hey, if you don't play ball the way I want you to, I'm going to take my ball and go home? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I don't want to play with people who are harmful to us. I am not willing to do it. Guineith, any comments?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. This whole coronavirus thing is absolutely crazy. It is a genuine disease. Okay, it is killing a lot of people. It is going to kill a lot of people. But the worst thing about it is the way that it is being played up by people who think they run the show. Okay? Now, what is happening, as far as I can see, is that it is getting used to impose every sort of tyranny that you could possibly imagine. Okay? So, for example, I sent you some video clips about what the coronavirus is doing here in Australia, and it's pretty astounding. What the news here in Australia is reporting is going on. There are lines around the block outside Social Security offices up and down the block. And we have an organisation in this country called Centrelink. It means Social Security. So if you hear Australians talking about Centrelink, they mean Social Security. There are so many people that have been put out of work by our Prime Minister on Saturday making a speech. This is Scott Morrison made a speech on Saturday, and he basically put the noose around Australia's neck on Saturday and started pulling, okay, figuratively. But by the time Sunday and Monday came around, I've heard estimates. There seems to be a pretty consistent figure, anecdotally coming out on the internet, that 1 million people, 1 million Australians lost their jobs as a result of that speech that the Prime Minister made. Okay, saying that he was going to put down, something that was a Freudian slip. He was going to put the country down, like you'd put down a sick dog. That is, that's pretty well it. That is his answer to coronavirus in Australia, is to shut the whole country down. Since that time, he has progressively been tightening the noose one notch at a time. Okay, so he will come on the news and have a public speech once every couple of days, and every couple of days, what he's doing is he's tightening the noose a notch or two, and he is strangling this country. And, I sent you a video earlier. I'll post it on my Facebook page tomorrow. There were lines going around the block with people lining up outside our Social Security to apply for unemployment benefits, and they were people who never thought they would be on unemployment benefits. Isn't that right, Vincent?
Yes, it is right.
It's just absolutely amazing. There were so many people applying for unemployment benefits on Monday here in Australia that they crashed the website, the government website for unemployment benefits here in Australia. And, oh my gosh. So, and earlier today I got a text message from the government, because I had to resort to going on unemployment benefits here in Australia, because even before this thing hit, the country was not doing well. locally here we have around about, I mean, anecdotally, I haven't got any government statistics to back this up, but I would say anecdotally we had about a 25% unemployment rate around here. So the municipality is just going absolutely crazy, but that's another story. And I've sent Vincent details of that as well. And, I'm not quite sure how much information I should give out there, but let's just say it's most beneficial for certain people in the municipality if I'm allowed to be about in the universe and, if they don't give me so much of a bad time, and then, oh my gosh, they've just really been harassing me no end on that end. But that is aside from the coronavirus. That's just what they've been doing. They can't see that all of this tyranny is now imploding in on itself. Okay? So the municipal tyranny is imploding in on itself. They can't even see that probably within a month there will be no municipal government here in Australia, at least not here locally, maybe nationwide. There will be no court here in Australia, I anticipate, in a month's time. This is just my gut feeling. It would not surprise me whatsoever if there were no municipal government workers here in Australia in a month's time. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's just really descending into that degree of chaos. And they're doing it to themselves. They're absolutely doing it to themselves. And the only thing that I can think of to describe it is that they're going into a panicked state of mind and they are figuratively cutting their own throats. That is the only metaphor that I can use to describe what they're doing to themselves. Does that make sense, Vincent?
It absolutely does. Let me share something with you, Guineith. So there are 50 states in the United States of America, and one of them has advised those residents in that state to be locked down. They locked down this state. And how many people are locked down? Well, 967,000. Almost 1 million people are locked down in this state. Now, what state is that? That's known as the first state. That would be Delaware. It's a tiny state. 967,000, or roughly 1 million people are locked down there. That's the smallest lockdown in the United States. I'll tell you about some of the other states when we come back. There are 17 states that have ordered 100% of non-essential workforce to stay at home to help curb the spread of the corona panic. We'll be right back. Class Guineith Isaacs is with us. She's live in Australia. And I'd like to put this in perspective. The current population of Australia is about 25 million people. And here are some lockdowns. These are measures that some of the states, 17 of them in the United States, have taken to help curb the spread of the corona panic. California has locked down 39.5 million people. That's about 1.5 times. It's over 1.5 times the population of the country of Australia. Connecticut, 3.5 million. As I mentioned, Delaware, 967,000, or almost 1 million. Hawaii, 1.42 million. I'm just going to round these numbers, okay? So Hawaii, 1.5 million. Illinois, 12.75 million. Indiana, 7 million. Louisiana, 5 million. Massachusetts, 7 million. Michigan, 10 million. Nevada, 3 million. The Garden State, New Jersey, 9 million. The Empire State, New York, 20 million. Ohio, 12 million. Oregon, 4 million. Pennsylvania, 13 million. Washington State, 8 million. West Virginia, 2 million. That's now. Now that might change in 20 minutes. But that's what's happening because this is real. And if you choose to share with us what other broadcasters are saying, I think we'd be interested in hearing this. Your entire class would be interested in hearing it because I have this belief that people are saying this is a hoax, this is a fraud. I think they're still saying that. But I don't listen to the radio, so I don't know. So maybe you can share that with your class. If you decide to do that, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Any comments on that, Guineith?
Well, what I can say is that the so-called government response, you know, I'm calling them the so-called government because at this stage they're not there for any of us to rule for our benefit. Okay, their response is pure tyranny, and it is designed basically to crush us and bring in a lot of things that they would like to bring in. The disease is a genuine disease. It is genuinely quite deadly. The world has had at least one deadly pandemic every 70 or 80 years, basically for the whole history of the world. So massive pandemics that go and kill a bunch of people are actually nothing new on the planet. And we could cope with it on our own, but their interference in our coping mechanisms is going to kill the economy of Australia, the United States, and basically the whole planet. Because, you know, before, it would be like the old, the sick, the weak, the stupid would be killed, and those who took precautions against whatever epidemic or pandemic was sweeping the planet, they would be the ones who survived, the ones who could think for themselves. But these people, their response is killing the economy, okay, putting everybody on a government payment, you know, and making sure that they cannot run any type of business of their own. This type of official response to a pandemic is completely unprecedented. Like I said, the world's had pandemic at least once every 70 or 80 years for the whole history of the world. And some of these pandemics, locally in particular places, like, for instance, you know, London in England would have bubonic plague outbreaks. And it was really, really common back in the day when London was having plague outbreaks for about, up to half the population or 90% of the population.
We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Guineith, is something very interesting about Prince Charles. And Prince Charles has tested positive for the coronavirus and is self-isolating in his home on the Balmoral estate. And that was revealed yesterday. And he's 71 years old. The Prince of Wales is 71 years old. He has a mild form of the illness and is with his wife, Camilla, well, second wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, who has tested negative so far and is without any symptoms. So the royal source said that Charles' doctor most conservative estimate was he was contagious on March 13th, 24 hours after briefly meeting with his 93-year-old mother, the Queen. And a Buckingham Palace spokesman has said Her Majesty remains in good health. The Queen is following appropriate advice with regard to her welfare. Charles has fallen ill after meeting with a coronavirus-stricken Prince Albert of Monaco, who tested positive 5 days ago after he sat opposite Charles at a water aid event in London on March 10th. So,
Vincent, I have some very important news regarding this very topic that I learned about today. And I'm sorry I didn't email you this information earlier. I had so much going on, which, like I said, you know the details of it. But I've got some really, really vital news that has been reported in the Australian press just today, okay? And I don't know if this has made it to the international press yet, but it's making it to the international press now. It was reported in the New Idea magazine this week that they are reporting that they have a royal source close to Prince Charles, Camilla, the Queen, and all the rest of them. And it is likely that both Her Majesty and Prince Charles will abdicate within a month because of the coronavirus. That is absolutely massive news, and that means that within a month we basically could have Prince William and Kate, Princess Kate, could be the King and Queen of England. That was reported in the New Idea magazine, which is on sale in Australia this week. I'm not sure if it's found anywhere online, but I bought the print magazine today and I have it. So it's jaw-dropping news, isn't it?
Well, the United States...
Oh, guess what? And Prince Harry's got a girlfriend. And no one's surprised.
You mean
Apparently
another girlfriend?
Prince Harry is dating a blonde movie star.
Huh. Is she black too?
No.
Oh. Okay.
She's blonde.
Well,
he was photographed with this blonde, lady, and apparently they were having a really, really good time. And
maybe he's
down in Vancouver with Meghan Markle, but apparently he's not so locked down that he can't go out and have a really good night out with one of his girlfriends. So I don't quite know what Meghan has to say about all of that, but it just goes to show, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it does. And when you mentioned the Queen may be abdicating, there was information that was available to us in the United States that that Prince William is stepping in for doing duties right now. And the way I read the news about the Queen and Prince Charles, yes, he has it according to the news, but it is absolutely silent as to whether the Queen has it. They indicate that she's taking care of herself. Well, I kind of think that it's likely, but I don't know this for a fact, that she has been exposed and she may be infected with the coronavirus. So isn't that interesting? And there you have it. So the guy, Harry, who threw it all away, could have moved up so many notches on that ladder in the UK government. He could have moved right up very close to the top, but he threw it all away. He fell for it. And what an idiot. Well, speaking of idiots, those two, Harry and Meghan, are advising people on what they should do about, washing your hands. And so the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have shared advice on keeping safe during the coronavirus panic. And they tell followers, can you imagine being a follower of those two? They told their followers to wash their hands often and avoid touching your face. Now, those two guys, that couple, have decided to live on Vancouver Island for now. But they want to go to California. But California's kind of locked down. So who knows what's going to happen to them. But those are the guys who are flying around on airplanes, jet-setting from continent to continent, telling you to wash your hands. Wouldn't it be interesting if they have spread it from London to Canada, in addition to all the other people who have spread it? Wouldn't that be interesting? Do you have much respect for Harry and Meghan, Guineith? I don't.
My respect for Harry is going down by the day, basically, because he's basically he's behaving like the millennials. Apparently there's this word that has been coined for this type of weak yes man type husband, and that is called a simp, S-I-M-P. And I'm not quite sure what simp actually stands for, but it means, as far as I can tell, like something like simpering or a yes man. Okay? And I would say that is exactly what Prince Harry has become. He's become a yes man. In other words, Meghan makes the decisions, and then she says, hey, what do you think about this, darling? And he says, oh, yes, that'll be fine. And he just says yes to whatever she decides. And so, that she's the one who ends up making the decisions. And he should be taking more of a leadership role. Mm-hmm. Because, call me old-fashioned, but I believe that if you have the good fortune to be in a marriage, and have a mum and a dad and, the kids, that the man needs to be the one to step up to the plate and make most of the major decisions, and the woman needs to be there in a support role. And the support team's really, really important, But I never, my husband died in 2003. I had a 3-month-old baby at the time, and I had a 2-year-old baby. And I had no choice. I had to become the mum and the dad of the family. And I had to become very strong. I had to become very hostile towards anyone who would seek to come in and disrupt family, especially people, for instance, from the police and from the families department. Oh, I had a visit from the Victoria Police earlier on this week. I emailed you regarding that. Apparently the Loddon Shire is still trying to pursue this debt. And they, there is a particular, I will tell the story, Vincent, but I won't name names. Okay? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Yes. The Victoria Police came, and they were apparently sent by a particular woman who works at the Loddon Shire Council, whose name is known to me, but whose name I will not broadcast, because she is applying for a intervention order against me, because I scare her. Apparently she's frightened for her safety because of me. She thinks that I'm sitting outside the council chambers spying on her. She thinks that I'm tracing up her home address, her car number plates, and her phone number, and she thinks that I'm really out to get her. And you know something? None of the above is true. Because I live 20 kilometres out of town and I have no motor vehicle. So even if I was inclined to stalk this woman, which I'm not, it would be pretty nigh impossible for me to do so because I don't have a car. I don't have one that works. I have one that I have a farm truck that sits in the paddock and it's broken. It does not work. But yeah, it is actually mind blowing. And so I was invaded by the Victoria Police. Two members of the Victoria Police this time. They didn't send the whole kit and caboodle of 6 members of their gang and 3 patrol cars like they did the last time. They only sent 2 this time. But yeah, oh my gosh, they had this, and this particular police officer, who is known to me, who is well known to me, who has, mostly not treated me well in the past. He basically said, "Do you agree to this document?" He said, "I'm here to give you this document. Do you agree to it?" And I said, "How can I agree to it if I haven't even read it?" I grabbed it off him anyway, and I said, "Now get off my land," because that is called trespass. When they come onto your land and they are not invited. And I insisted on escorting them down the driveway. And I read the document, and they described my past behaviour as being hostile. And I look at it this way. I live 20 kilometres out of town. I live on a farm. I don't have a motor vehicle. And, and if I get somebody coming onto my land, invading my land...
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us, class, live in Australia, and she's sharing some news about situation of trespass where the government invaded her property, and then she was accused of being hostile. The same exact thing happened to me here in the United States, where the census workers came onto my property, unannounced, uninvited, and I was polite to them, and they put in their database that I was uncooperative and hostile. Same nonsense. But it's on my record, and I'm pretty sure it's on your record as well, Guineith. And
well, it's like this, Vincent.
Uh-huh.
Not this time, but the previous time, okay, that the police invaded my land, and that's the only word that I could use to describe it. 6 officers and 3 cars in a little farm out in the middle of nowhere, okay? And they all rocked up, and they all came up my driveway, and they would not leave, okay? I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because one of these officers, okay, had actually had a role to play. What happened before that, okay, was that one of my friends was assaulted by a police officer at a tavern in this area, and my friend was assaulted so severely by this police officer in an unprovoked attack that she spent a week in hospital. And she she had a bowel injury because of this attack, and she will never poop properly again in her life. That is how severe the attack was. And one of those police officers that came onto the land on the previous occasion, okay, stood by and watched the whole incident. Okay? And that was a completely unprovoked attack. These guys are vicious. They are really, really dangerous. And when they come onto my land, I do not feel safe. I really feel, I fear for my safety. And I don't fear for my safety like they say that they fear for their safety. I genuinely fear for my safety. And my reaction is to get hostile towards them because I want them to leave. I think that if I show myself weak, that it increases my chances of having, something happen to me. I think that they take softness as being weakness, and I don't intend to show that I'm soft, basically. And I'm not going to go hurting anyone in any unprovoked attacks, and I have never, ever hit them, and I never would hit them first. But if they hit me, I'm going to defend myself, because if I don't, then I'm going to be seen as an easy target, and they're going to keep hitting. They're going to hit again and again and again, and it's probably going to go very badly for me. That's, they're completely vicious. And my friend will never poop properly again in her life. That's what the doctors say. That's the background, what's going on in this story. And they have the cheek to say that I'm the one who's a dangerous threat, when the Loddonshire Council, and in particular this particular council worker, who will remain unnamed as long as I am fit and alive and healthy and walking around in the universe, she will remain unnamed. But if anything happens to me, then her name will be published through various sources all over the planet. But I don't like to think about that, because if that ever happens, I'm probably not going to be alive to see it. And I don't like to think about that. I don't fear death, but I want to grow to be an old woman. And I've seen in my life, I've seen friends get assassinated. I've had an assassination attempt on my own life, and I've had another friend, well, one friend had her throat cut in front of her children. This was in Western Australia. That was Heather Glendenning, and her children's throats were cut, and then her throat was cut. I should have, but this is the sort of vicious things that are going on here in Australia, and she's dead. Heather Glendenning is dead. She was viciously murdered, and the police covered up the whole thing. And it was the, very same Blue Team members in Geraldton that were responsible for covering that up, that were responsible for giving me such a bad time.
We're going into a break. When we come back, I'll tell you what's happening with Amazon. You won't believe it. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us. And here's an interesting story that, Amazon. So as those of you who are acting prudently, staying home, avoiding contact, kind of like not doing what Prince Charles did and Albert, a lavish dinner where they all met in the same room, and two of them have tested positive for the coronavirus. So for those of you who haven't done that and are acting prudently and staying at home, and you're buying things online, well, Amazon has at least 6 different warehouses in the United States where employees have tested positive for coronavirus.
Oh, boy.
Where are they? New York City, These are where the warehouses are. And the employees that work in the warehouses, New York City, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, Miami, and Oklahoma at the minimum. Now, there may be more that we don't know about, but that's where they are right now. So what is Amazon doing? Well, they're disinfecting. They're doing what other companies are doing. They say they're disinfecting. Now, what in the heck does that mean? Does that mean they are spreading poisons, aerosolized, through their heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems? Are they spraying packages? Are they flipping them upside down and getting all sides? What does that mean? I don't know. But here's what it means to me. It means to me that I'm not buying anything on the internet. We're done. And it means to me that all packages that come from the mail, we still get mail, they're all suspect. Of course they're all suspect. And what we've been doing, and this is a risky thing to do, class. So if your mail person leaves mail, we're not touching it. We're saying, just drop it right there. We're leaving it in the sun for days. Now, if you have a bill, you might cause yourself to be late in paying that bill because you've taken prudent measures to not touch the mail. So I'm telling you that all mail is suspect. All packages are suspect. Everything is suspect. The lint from somebody's jacket or clothes or jeans or sweater is suspect. Everyone is suspect. And we don't want people on the farm. Your cats and dogs may wander out. I know people who live in apartments and they have animals. Well, I'm pretty sure a couple times a day those animals have animal waste. Now what? I was talking with one of our instructors yesterday. We were talking about apartments. And there's some people who live on the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor, of apartment buildings. And some are nice and they have balconies. And I said, I can see this. I can see this very clearly as this lockdown continues, whether it be voluntary or involuntary. People are going to throw their garbage off the balconies. I said, it's worse than that. I said, if you live on a floor of an apartment where there are floors above you, you might find people peeing off their balconies. Now, why would I say that?
That's what they used to do in Edinburgh and Glasgow. Just as short as 100 years ago, people were doing that in Edinburgh and Glasgow in Scotland. And they had a saying, we out below. And we out below means watch out below in the Scottish dialect of English, okay? So watch out below means there's something coming from you or from up above, which is the contents of someone's chamber pot. And they might be liquid contents or they might be solid contents. This whole system, Vincent, is right on the point of collapse, And I studied systemic collapse at a university level as an academic. And to see what I'm seeing now is ticking all of the boxes, for exactly what you would see in a massive systemic collapse. I'm talking about a systemic collapse of the magnitude of the fall of the Roman Empire. And this is what we're actually living through right now. You have hostile bureaucrats, really, really hostile bureaucrats, who are basically out to feather their own nests. They're absolutely terrified because it's not just me in the municipality who is deciding that they've had enough. There are many people in this municipality who are deciding that they've had enough, and a lot of them far more hostile than I will ever be. And I don't know who these people are, but what I do know is that this same employee who's been giving me a bad time has issued over 40 infringement notices to landowners all over the Shire. And, so I don't even know what to say there, How can you do something like that and expect that everything is going to be okay into the future? I don't know who these people are. I've got no intentions of causing any harm to this woman because, something, I'm actually somebody, it's well known. Anyone can find this out about me on the internet. I've worked as a psychic many times in the past. I've worked professionally full-time as a psychic. And I know intuitively what's going to happen in the future. And I can tell you how this is going to happen in the future in this municipality. This municipal government, so-called, is going to collapse. It's going to implode. And all of the municipal employees are going to find that they don't have a job anymore. And I think that the coronavirus has a large part to play in this. And, they're going to just, this whole thing is going to collapse. This whole country, right from the municipal level, the state level, and the national level, the whole thing is going to implode in on itself like a termite-eaten mansion, like a termite-eaten house. This is the picture that I keep getting on the inside of myself. It's like, oh my gosh, if you could imagine a house that is full of termites, it looks fine. Many times when you get termite-infested houses, they look absolutely fine from the outside. But then you go through the gyprock or whatever lining that they have, that plasterboard that they put on the inside of the lining of the house. You make a hole in that, and you put your hand in the hole, and you see the internal framing of the house, and you can crush it with your hand. And if a decent wind blows, that house will actually get blown over. Have you ever seen houses like that, Vincent? They look completely fine
I've
from the outside.
I've seen boards that have been. Yeah, I've seen boards from houses that have been infested with termites, and from the outside it'll look like a 2x4, 2x6, 2x8 perfectly. But if you press it with your thumb goes right through it because it's been eaten, all except for the finest, thinnest layer on the outside, which looks perfect. And the reason for that is termites die in the light. So they'll eat the board from the inside out until they start to sense light, and they stop right there. Brett in New York, welcome. You're on with Guineith Isaacs and me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. A long-time listener. I know a lot of people don't call in. We're working, we're doing things, but your show is very much appreciated. Your preparedness has helped me personally to feel a little bit more secure in these perilous times because I have taken your advice, because I have taken precautions. I have grown a garden. I do food dehydration because freeze-dried machines are very expensive, and they're homeowner machines for the most part. But you had asked for people to call in. I don't listen to the radio. I haven't had TV hooked up in my house for like 25 years. I do listen to Jeff Rentz. He takes this very serious. He has Henry Nyman, Dr. Henry Nyman, a virologist, on for an hour every night talking about the new cases all over the world and what's going on. I also listen to the Power Hour with Daniel Brigman, and he takes this very serious too.
Okay. Have you heard anyone not take it seriously and talk about, shift over to the distraction and talk about how this is a hoax, fraud, et cetera?
not any. I don't really listen to like mainstream, media. So I haven't in that way. I've heard people talk about it, but yet my observations from going out to stores, people with those paper masks that have like a double elastic strand and the lower one is usually hanging. I find that pretty amusing. There's nothing but piles. Like you go over to Walmart or you go over to the supermarkets in the area, and there's like these little piles all over the parking lot of these blue, black, pink, semi-clear gloves that they've taken off. I guess at least they're smart enough not to bring them into their car, but how about putting them in a garbage can?
Those are very good points, and we use them. I have a quick news flash for our class. Because we purchased items at Harbor Freight, they send us sales flyers, and they say, here's what's on sale, this week. Well, they sent a news flash out saying that Harbor Freight has donated all of their protective equipment, all of their gloves, that mechanics would wear working on cars, and face shields and their face masks to hospitals. So that's wonderful, except as mechanics, they're none available for us because they've donated them all to the hospitals. Just a thought. Well, I have talked with Jeff Rentz once on the phone. I called him up, and we had a great conversation. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I have not talked to anyone at the Power Hour other than the original Power Hour, and that was Joyce Riley. Yeah. Do you want to hold through the break?
I would.
Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Brett is with us live in New York. Brett, do you have any other comments you'd like to share with our class?
Yeah, there's, I live in upstate New York. I'm about an hour plus away from New York City. Obviously, that's a hot zone in New York City. There's a hot zone in Orange County, New York, which is upstate and on the west side of the Hudson River. And it's a Hasidic community, just like the Hasidic community in Brooklyn. That's a big hot spot. And from what I understand, the state police have it barricaded so that they can't flow through as much as they like and spread the virus.
Okay. We reported this week that the FBI has been saying that there are some groups of people or a group of people who are being encouraged within the group to take bodily fluids and spray them on doorknobs and places that people touch to spread the virus.
Oh, my gosh.
That's disgusting. That's horrid.
And there are two targeted groups. There are two targeted groups. One group is the police. The other group is the Jews. Both are being targeted by this other group. So you mentioned
to spread the virus.
Yes, that's correct. Now, I want to make sure that our class understands we do not advocate anything like that. We find this reprehensible. We find it reprehensible.
Is reprehensible. The Hasidic community is a community of about 35,000 people in a relatively small area. It's not quite a gulag, but it's stack and pack. And they're building another community because they keep annexing they're annexing land, buying and annexing land under other people's names and corporations and dummy corporations, and they're spreading heavily. But they live in very meek conditions. You and I would not choose to live like that. And it's like that 1 mile radius over in New Rochelle, New York, where the lawyer had come back from, I think, Israel, and they blockaded a 1 mile radius, which was like the yeshiva school, because he gave it to his family. And his kids go to school, they go to the yeshiva, and that's, it's a very, very close, tight-knit community, very close quarters, a lot of people, small area, and now they're building. They just keep expanding. The money just flows with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the idea of stacking and packing is a great way to spread this pandemic. And there are broadcasters who have said on air that this is not a pandemic. I have to disagree. And there are those that say that, washing your hands is like really important. Well, it is. But that's not the only thing that's important. Now it's important to avoid packages that come from your Federal Express, UPS, and United Postal Service. That's a problem now as well. And here's just an interesting tidbit. So there's Guineith, and I'm pretty sure you know about this, but I'd like to share it with Brett and the rest of the class. So if you live in New York, you've probably been to the big cities, and you know that there's a protocol for walking down the sidewalk with your lady, okay? And the protocol is that the man walks on the left side.
The outside.
Yeah, the man walks on the outside of the side toward the road or the street, and the woman walks toward the inside. And there's several reasons why. These are reasons from old. So, for example, in the days when men wore swords, they wore them on the left side. And withdrawing your sword on the left side, if your lady with her big skirt were on the left side, it might get entangled and prevent you from defending you and your lady. That's one reason. Another reason is because in those days of old, carts were drawn by horses, and the horses would pee and poop on the street. And when it rained, the crown in the road would send the pee and the poop and the rain toward the gutter or the sewer side, which was closest to the sidewalk. So when a cart came down and splashed through that pee and poop and rain, it wouldn't get on the lady as much as the guy. And there's one more reason. I'll share that with you when we come back. Class, just a quick comment before we get back to Guineith and Brett. Those who have not been preparing for their own protection and their own safety will most likely be bailed out by us. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the federal government will most likely be bailing out the airlines, the GDP, local, county, and state governments, banks, cruise lines, newspapers, oil companies, automobile manufacturers, insurance companies, and almost every other business sector. I believe that's going to happen. I believe it is happening. And to prevent the GDP from rioting in the streets, breaking windows, burning down buildings, stealing, robbing, burglarizing, shooting, mayhem, they're going to be passing out checks or direct deposits so that you can spend money that we don't have to buy the things that you should have bought rather than going to the mouse. M-O-U-S-E. As in Mickey Mouse. Jet setting around the country, taking vacations, doing stupid things instead of preparing. And I know people just like this. They have done it, and now they are broke. And who's going to get to bail them out? Us. I resent it. Brett, any comments?
I can tell you one sector that I do not believe is going to get bailed out, and that's the landlords. The president has told people not to pay their rent, not to pay their mortgage, and I've got probably 85% that are laid off of my tenants, and I don't really expect to get much in the beginning of the month. It'd be nice if I did, but I still have bills. I still have things that need to get taken care of, and
Brett,
we're not going to get a bailout.
I'm glad you mentioned this. I had this very discussion with one of our instructors yesterday, and here's what I said, and I'd like you to react. I said that the people who rent will be getting laid off. Pretty much most people are going to be getting laid off. And they will not be able to buy food because they'll be out of money unless money comes from the government to bail them out temporarily. so they won't be able to pay their rent. And then the rent payments that the landlords receive goes to paying the note, the mortgage note, on the buildings that the landlords have purchased. So cash flow is critical in most all cases with landlords. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Is the bank? See, I don't think the bank, for a while, the bank is going to say, yeah, you're just like everybody else. But then they're going to want to take your building back.
Absolutely. And on top of that, New York State, the wonderful state that it is, they close all the courts, which includes the eviction courts. And I don't mean to seem heartless, but if you don't pay your car, they come and take your car, right?
If you don't pay your taxes on your property, they sell it on the courthouse steps.
If you don't pay the water bill, if you have a utility that's supplied to you by village, town, entity, they will put that on your taxes and they will take a property. I've seen properties taken for 2-3 years of back water bill because maybe somebody was ill or moved or they got it wrong, and that could be $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000, $2,000 a year. You know, who would pay what? You could literally lose your house for a couple $1,000
in water. Well, I'll tell you what, the mayor of Los Angeles said that he will cut the water off and the electricity off of irresponsible, selfish stores that remain open. So he said you will close, and the stores are. He's going to shut the water off. This is
to do that through the smart meters. You remember that McDonald's that was watering their lawn in the middle of the night, and they shut their water off, so it violated a health code. So they had to close their doors until the water was turned back on. That was about 6-7 years ago through those smart meters that everybody's letting them put on.
Guineith, your thoughts?
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, well, it's absolutely true. Okay, I wanted to share this, and I'm so glad that you called, Brett. I really am, because you have reminded me to talk about this particular subject. Now, class, this is really, it's really dangerous for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Those smart meters literally can be remotely. There's relays in there that can shut off your power remotely.
Oh, yeah, and they can monitor them in real time.
Right. Now, here's the critical point, and here's what is risky for me to say. There may be health reasons why you need to have your electric running, and it may be shut off by a glitch, which is an non-reproducible event, a computer malfunction, a programming malfunction, or some clerk that's mad at you for whatever reason. So your electricity can be turned off. And you can have someone in your house that's on oxygen and you have to have medical equipment running to keep y'all alive. Well, I suggest you do your own research on how to reverse that switch that's sent across the airwaves to turn off your meter. It's very simple. It is you won't believe how simple it is to turn your power back on. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do it in any case other than an extreme emergency, and you may be arrested for it, or you may be prosecuted for it. But all that, I think, may be better than having someone in your family die because some jerk at the electric company shut your power off. I'm very serious about this. Look on YouTube. Look on YouTube. You'll find it on YouTube. Brett, please continue.
They're going to cause tremendous foreclosures in rental properties across the nation through telling people. So anybody who heard the president say, oh, you don't have to pay your mortgage, you don't have to pay your rent, but you have the means to do it, please do it, because the property will be sold out from under you. The big courts are still open. The litigation courts are still open, which also brings up the foreclosure. I'm into, the banks have been forging documents for years, and I didn't even call to bring this into light, but when the bank goes to court for foreclosure, they provide documents, and those documents are usually forged because in the MERS system, they shred the documents, which is your deed and your title. So they no longer have your note in your original signature, and so they forge the documents. In some of these cases, because I have friends that are forensic mortgage investigators, and in some of these cases, they have provided sets of documents that contradict each other. People have been brought in for signatures. You've heard about the robo-signers, and they verify that the signatures are not original. If you sign a legal document, you should sign it in blue ink so that when they photocopy it, it comes out black.
I always do. I always sign those documents in blue ink. And my signature is not readable. So if my name were Smith, my signature would look nothing like the word Smith. There would be no identifiable letters in my signature. So if someone were to fraudulently grab one of our checks don't have my name on them. They don't. They have something else on them. And you can put anything you want on your check. If your name is Smith, you could put W and W Co. as, like W and W Corporation or company. But it would be signed with however you sign your name, Smith. And if you don't, and so if someone were to fraudulently cash that check, they might sign it W and W Co. And of course, the bank would compare that to your signature and say, it doesn't look anything like Smith, or even the way the owner of that account writes Smith. And that's what I do. So you're right. I write in blue. Sometimes I write in red. And that's a great idea.
That's legal. I don't think red is legal. Blue and black are legal, but red,
but you know what?
Is not.
I don't really even care about that. Really?
Well, the mortgage companies present documents to the courts, and the courts, mostly the judges don't even look at them. The clerks look at them, and they tell the judge what they're going to think. There's more power in a clerk than a judge for some reason, but they take those documents as like one of the tablets that Moses came down the mountain with, and whatever it says in there, they believe it. And you show them that this can't be like this. I have a friend upstate New York, and he was paying his mortgage, and he was paying extra payments into his mortgage. And after like 2 years, he asked for an accounting of where the extra money had gone to see that it had brought down the principal payment, because in the mortgage, you pay all your interest up front. On a 30-year loan, you're paying like all your interest in the first like 15 years. And then it starts balancing out, around the halfway point. And so he said, let me see where I've pushed down and pulled down my principal. And they were like, what money? So he stopped paying his mortgage. They sold his mortgage. Then they sold it again without purchasing it back. He's now he's stymied in court with, the judge keeps ignoring and he's a mortgage forensic auditor, and the judge keeps ignoring all of his evidence that he brings forth. They just finally got a letter from, I forget the name of the mortgage company, and that supposedly owns it, and I guess a VP gave him an affidavit that said we didn't own it at that point in time, so we're waiting to see, but now that all the courts are shut down, what the judge is going to do with this.
Brett, let me just make a comment for our class. I've been in exactly that position, not with the court system, but I have always advocated in the early days of a mortgage amortization, pay the first month in full and pay the principal of the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth month right away. I mean, at the same time. But mark with separate checks and mark, this is payment number 1. This is payment number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth. And that way you have evidence. And when they cash those checks or they negotiate those checks, they are now part of the record, because we used to actually have copies of canceled checks. Now it's really hard to get copies of canceled checks because the banks don't want to give them to you. So there are a lot of problems with this. You're absolutely right, and you have to keep your own records. But I've done that. I've reduced our mortgage substantially, taken a 30-year mortgage and reduced it substantially, and by doing the kinds of things that you just referred to. Brett, I want to thank you for calling in. Guineith has got a couple other items that she wanted to talk about with respect to the coronavirus. Thank you for calling in, and don't be a stranger, please. We welcome.
Thank you for what you do.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, and I know Guineith is, and thank you for your contributions. That's Brett.
You're all very much appreciated. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
God bless you.
God help us. Class, we've been saying that the coronavirus has been doubling every 3 days or so. I'm going to prove it to you. Here's a small microcosm, Greene County, which is where Springfield, Missouri is. So a few weeks ago, we said there was one case, then there were 2. Then there were 4, 5, and 6. Then there were 7 and 8. Today, they're 18. Well, as of a couple of days ago, they're 18. That's one thought. So it's doubling every few days all across the country. Now, let's say you've been advised to work from home. Well, here's something you need to think about. When you're on the phone with somebody, and if you're working from home, you're probably using the telephone. And when you talk to people on the phone, they may be really stupid. They may be the GDP. And they may have Alexa or Echo in their home, listening and recording to your conversation with them. Keep that in mind. So if you're working home, you might want to say to whomever you're talking with, do you have one of those smart devices like Echo and Alexa in your home? If so, I won't be able to help you. I'm going to have to hang up right now. Next thing I'd like to share. So when you walk about and when you travel during this lockdown system, when local, county, and state governments lock you down, and you have your personal tracking device in your pocket, you are being tracked by a company called Unicast, UNACAST. They know how far you are apart from people, and they know your exact movements. They know whether you are at the 6 feet, the 9 feet, whatever distance you are from other people with smartphones. They know. They know. So, I don't have a smartphone. I don't have a phone. I have a landline. Period. Guineith, any comments about those items?
Yeah, this is something where in Australia they're basically descending into complete tyranny. They are going to put soldiers on the street. They say that it's for our safety, and I say, well, I don't believe that, because even just today I wrote in a letter to particular people. I said, you've completely destroyed my trust. You have so abused me over the years. I don't trust you anymore. Why do you expect me to be, why do you expect me to like you? This is it. I don't trust them. I don't like them. And they're hostile. They're hostile to me. They have abused my good nature in the past. This is it. And in Australia, they want to give people prison sentences up to 5 years for standing too close to someone. This is just total Bravo Sierra. This is just total tyranny and domination and control like has never, ever been seen on the earth. And I don't want to go out. I don't want to have anything to do with this system. I just want to stand by the sidelines and wait for it all to implode in on itself. Because what we're seeing is the fall of Babylon. What we're seeing is the fall of Sodom. And what we're seeing is the fall of Rome, all rolled into one. This is how empires collapse. And I just want to stand on the sidelines out here on my little farm out in the middle of nowhere and watch the whole thing collapse. That's what I want to do. It's inevitable that it should collapse. I think that they are pooping themselves with fear, because on some instinctive level, they know that they only have a short time, and that they can't. They're trying to save their position of power. They're not going to be able to do it because everything that they do to try and secure their power is only making the power slip away from them more. Like, you don't build an empire by destroying an economy. And what they're doing is destroying an economy. And, yeah, they're going to destroy the whole thing. They are killing the golden goose.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, like I said, they are figuratively cutting their own throats, as the saying goes. And everything they do is only making it worse. And this is what I advise that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
Find a piece of, go out to your country estate and sit there and do nothing except look after yourself and look after your family and wait for the whole thing to collapse in on itself. Because this empire is collapsing. It is going to fall in on itself. There's no avoiding that. And
Guineith, I have a couple.
Doing is the last desperate measure.
I have a couple quick comments.
A
couple quick comments for our class. Walmart, online, out of flour, out of yeast, out of paper products such as toilet paper and towels, dried dog food, and dry cat food is being rationed or limited. Let's see, Sam's website is reporting errors without explaining them. If you go to Craigslist and you search for a camper trailer or a freezer, you will not find one at a reasonable price. No kidding. What does that mean? That means the corona panic is running right now. Thank you, Guineith, for being with us.